Well, let's see if we can go ahead and get started and make a little progress. So David did set up Jira. I gave it a try. I didn't have any specific suggestions. Did anyone else give it a try?
For Jira, I did not receive the automated email, so I could not set up my account.
All right. I think I found mine in
Spam?
spam folders somewhere. I forget now. It was some complication anyway. Did anyone receive the invite?
I did get the invite, but I didn't have a chance to try out Jira.
I also did, and I could register for an account, and it was okay.
Good.
I'm able to access it.
All right. I will follow up with David about the invites, but my suggestion is we go ahead and declare it live, and there is a I believe it's called a component, which is the IT support for Jira. That we then use to ask for anything else we need. But there's enough. I just had a trivial ticket to add that we do want to update to 2404. So just to try it out, and I mean, it works just as expected. All right. Jenkins, looks like there's a little bit of good news and bad news. I believe that David entered this canal. Do you know anything about why the failures, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, we had failures around GNBSM tests. So I checked yesterday. Uh, these jobs were failing due to GNBSM tests, and the major issues that we have seen is related to summary log. So summary log was not getting generated. So it is kind of intermittent issue. We sometimes see summary.log file getting created, and sometimes it does not. So
But that has consistently worked for a long time. So it has something to do with how the dynamic setup of the VM is perhaps in an intermediate state and not completely set up, or something's not quite ready for the test to run.
yeah, I mean, we have never seen all the jobs getting failed, but earlier also few jobs were failing due to this issue.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Stably. All right.
Yeah.
We get,
I'll work with DAF and figure out if
yeah, I mean,
there's anything.
it's not that suddenly GNB Sim stopped working. It's not changed. It has something to do with dynamically setting up the VM and it not being in quite the right state when the job starts, I would suspect.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Just in case, can you get the GNB sim logs, not the summary logs? If you can get those, that would be helpful to understand what's happening there. Maybe GNB sim is not connecting to AMF at all, or the 5G something. If you can, so the logs will be in the temp folder inside the GNB sim container.
So,
If you-
well, I
Sure.
believe all the logs are captured and stored in Jenkins now.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So they should show, yeah, the quick answer is they should be there. Oh. Well, I'm not gonna try to jump in and debug this right now. So we'll come back, see if we can figure that out. But the good news is at one point, or 12 of the 13 single server jobs are converted to the dynamic, so that's good. So Kunal, do you know what this last note means?
Yeah, DAF has created two views. So one is QS 2004 and the other one is 2204. So all the dynamic jobs are listed in these views only.
Oh, now I got it. Thank you. So so those are the two versions of Ubuntu that we're running on. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then finally the docs point is mine, but I'm gonna need Def's help, maybe. If you weren't aware, SD core docs are currently served from opennetworking.org, which we need to fix. SD-RAN is served from sdran.org, which is fine. That's a perfectly good synonym, but we wanted both of these served also from etherproject.org. So the C names are there, but if you clicked on if you tried to go to those those DNS names, you would get pointed to a static web server that then serves a whole bunch of different content. So there's some backend Nginx updates that need to be made. I just need to go figure out what those are, but that will be done soon.
Quick question about this, Larry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, does this gonna have any effect on where do we publish the documentation for the SD core or something like that?
Nope, it's actually going to exactly the same place.
Oh, okay.
There is an AWS server. It still has a static name, which is static.opennetworking.org, but it has a whole bunch of C names for the etherproject.org, for the various docs.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all going there, and it's just a local redirect to the right directory that needs to get fixed. Yeah, so the publishing tech method is exactly the same. Okay, so that'll be fixed shortly, and then we will have some consistent names for everything. I've got it here on the order. Let me jump to the bottom since there's actual content there. If anyone else has updates they want to start to put into the agenda, please do. But I wanted to make sure we did talk about the OAI blueprint. The work is done. I had one small tweak that I wanted to get made, and then the documentation will hopefully get published later today. Just in summary, what this means is that you can bring up a software radio from OAI, connect it to the Ether core, and then either connect a real live UE cell phone or run an emulated UE against that. This has been, Blas spent the week at Intel Labs, and they have a software radio there. So it was tested against I guess it's the 310X. I don't understand their
X310.
Yeah, right, thanks. So yeah, I think this is a big deal, and I think we can build around this. There's a bunch of other stuff that we can do as well.
A few comments
SRS,
about.
yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry, Christian, go ahead.
And it would be easy to add the SRS one now, right? I mean, Bilal was maybe going.
I'm sorry to add what?
SRS run.
SRS
Yeah.
one.
So yeah, let me just go ahead and. Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly there'll be a little something that's different, but the playbook the playbook should be reasonably close. We just need to do that as well. So I was looking to see if Wuzhong is on, and I don't think he is.
I have a couple comments regarding the OAI blueprint.
Yeah.
I think some updates need to be made into that, more from the repository perspective. There are two Apache licenses. I mean, two files for the Apache license. One is called just license, and the other one is called license copy. So some cleanup needs to be done. The other part, even your dependency or your submodules as repositories, all of them are called Aether-something. But from the dependencies name perspective, it just, for example, for the 5G core, the repository is named Aether-5G, but in the dependencies itself, it's only called 5G. So that
That one,
also, the
yeah, Gabriel,
OAI
that
needs
one,
to
that's actually on the cleanup list. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so there are
So
several
the
things.
licensing specifically was,
Oh, if you go to the OAI repository, so I mean to the Aether OAI repository, there
Yeah.
is two files. One is called license, the other is basically license copy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think I saw the difference is only that one is general and the license copy contains our repos 5GC, GNOTBSIM, and that's the only difference I could see in there. But
Huh?
yeah, you're talking about two license files, right?
In the OAI repository,
Yeah,
in the Aether OAI.
yeah, I checked it. It's also it exists at one more place. The difference it has is the name of our repos inside the license file.
but which one do we want? I mean, I forget which way we normally do it.
So I guess we should have the copy file, license copy. Let me just clarify quickly.
Yeah, and the other thing is for the targets, you have like camel case, upper combination of upper for that name make file targets. You have a combination of upper and lower case, which makes confusing. So I guess it should be only
Okay.
lowercase everything.
Right.
Yeah, thanks. So there's a bunch of little things like that. So I guess maybe we can just get them captured right here. So we know that one. We got the two license and then upper lowercase mix on make
For the
targets.
targets. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so hopefully later today we will get all of this squared and make an announcement about it. The point I wanted to make, and it may be meaningful to other people, so I'll go ahead and make it, which is that when we get to SD-RAN, there is an SD-RAN blueprint. It currently uses RAN SIM, but at some point we're going to want SD-RAN running with the OAI radio. And when we do that, I would like to reuse the OAI deployment we already have, so we don't replicate OAI. That might mean we need to add a flag of some kind to the OAI blueprint that deploys it in such a way that it's near real-time RIC controllable. So that's kind of a for future note, and I'll make sure that Wuzhong is aware of that. I mean, it's already the case that the OAI blueprint has an option with simulated UE or with real UE. And my understanding is you can deploy OAI with a RAN split so that it's controllable from the RIC. I mean, Gabriel, maybe you know about that already.
Sorry, Larry. Say one more time, please.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a rat hole. Let's not. We'll take it offline. It's just for future reference that I wanted to make sure that we didn't duplicate the OAI deployment, but we deployed it with different configuration options selectable.
Different configurations options selectable.
All right, so what it means is when you deploy OAI,
mhm,
you can do it in simulation mode, or you can do it in real UE mode.
correct.
Right. I'm just saying that once we get OAI so it works with SD-RAN, we would likely be adding a split mode as well. As
What is it?
opposed to having this whole parallel deployment of OAI just for the benefit of SD-RAN.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we do the OAI deployment and probably the SRS-RAN deployment in a way that works for with and without SD-RAN.
Correct. Yes. So from that perspective, there are at least in OAI deployment, because I was doing some deployment as well last week. The configuration files the OAI has now they have also the option to enable the E2 agent there. So for the E2 agent, you need in the configuration file, you need to point where in the system the service model files are located from the OAI perspective.
Yep.
So if you don't have that kind of like in place, basically OAI is not going to start. So because it's gonna crash trying to search for those service models from OAI perspective. So when the there is no rig there, that section of the configuration file should be kind of like disabled because you don't need to have the E2 agent when you don't have a rig involved there. That's something that needs to be taken into account in this blueprint. And when the SD-RAN is going to be enabled, then you need to enable the E2 agent on OAI. And at that time, the important piece is to let it know where the E2 service models are located.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's exactly. I knew there had to be something like that. So that's exactly what I'll make sure that Wuzhong is aware of that as well.
Mhm.
So Bilal, just FYI, at some point, we'll want to extend the OAI blueprint so that it optionally includes the E2 agent.
Sounds good.
But again, that's
Larry,
down the road.
Larry, I have a question. So when we are referring to OAI here, is that the 4G OAI or the 5G?
This is all
5G.
5G.
Okay, and have we identified the particular stable release for the OAI that we would be interested in?
At this point, we have been using the OAI is creating the Docker images for their develop branch. And basically that's what we are using so far, the develop branch, the Docker image from the develop branch.
Okay, and regarding the E2 agent, in past we had worked in to repurpose the E2 agent which persists within SD-RAN to work with 5G OAI, which was done as a part of Project Pronto demo. And that piece of work sits within Intel.
Mhm.
So, because taking the OAI E2 agent, that would mean that we need to make E2 AP and all those protocols compliant with the versions of E2 AP which are supported on the RIC. And it would also mean that we are committing to support and debug all the encoding, decoding with regards to ASN, which may occur because of the OAI E2 agent, and which may or may not be compliant to what is there with the ONF RIC.
So is it possible to
just
substitute our own E2 agent?
yes, so that's what I was saying. We
That's
have
what.
already
Yeah.
Yeah, we already did that around a year or so back for Project Pronto demo. So we can get that thing reinstated with the most recent OAI 5G release, and that would ease off the OAI to RIC integration with the recent code base.
And Kushal, that means that we need to create the Docker image for OAI from scratch, correct?
What I remember is I took the release from end of 2022 OAI, and I did not take the Docker image, but I took the source code as
Yeah,
is.
yeah. No, that's basically what I'm saying. So basically,
Yeah, and from that,
what
from that
you
we
have the
can
E2
make a Docker
source.
image.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we need to create that, so we shouldn't be able to use their Docker image. So probably as a first step, maybe we can test, whether there is compatibility with the current E2 agent that they have already there. If
Mhm,
not, we can take
mhm.
Kushal's path, and then we need to create our Docker image from scratch, basically from the source code, with the E2 agent that Kushal has.
So is this popping up a level? Is this something that you are Intel is actively working on and willing to make this available? Because I think we got stuck in the past that it was done for the Pronto demo, but it never got released.
Yes, so that sits within Intel inner source directory, and it was supposed to get into SDRAN 1.5 release, which never happened, and it still sits there, and it never got prioritized.
Okay, so Wuzhong is and the students he has are working on the 1.5 release.
Yeah, I had a word with Wuzhong, so we were planning to scope it as part of SDRAN 1.5 release, but I'm not sure how much bandwidth we have for this commitment, because if we are supposed to take whatever is integrated as is, then it's much easier. But if we want to integrate it altogether new with the recent OAI codebase, that it may require some tuning and probably some upgrades in the ORAN specifications, because the ones that we were complying to were quite old, are
Yeah,
quite
so
old now.
Yeah, I can imagine. So we did take the strategy of pulling in Docker images as opposed to building OAI from source. So if there's an old image we could pull in, and I
Mhm.
don't know if there is, that would help.
But yeah, you can take that image, but the E2 agent is integrated as a static library along with OAI of RAN.
Okay.
So if you want to use the one that SDRAN has, then as Gabriel mentioned, then we can build a Docker image from scratch from the source code that we have, our
So
own Docker image.
so as a generalization of that notion, it may be the case that we need to be publishing our own OAI images as opposed to pulling them in directly from OAI, because we may, for example, need to modify this static library.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, thanks. All to come. All right, so just to wrap this up, we want to do the same thing as we just been discussing. We want to leverage all of this work when we bring in the RAN as SD-RAN as well. And it should be possible to do the same thing for SRS RAN. Still needs to be done. Someone needs to pick that problem up. And finally, on the on-ramp topic, the scalability blueprint. Bilal, is there anything to say about that?
No, not right now, but this week, yeah, I will. I just, yeah.
One kind of general scalability question. Are we, is Purdue planning to kind of contribute all the kind of like improvements that they need to the scalability of the SD core?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat
Oh,
again?
So Gabriel, it's a two-phase process. Phase one is you as a blueprint that uses the Purdue images
Mm-hmm.
and in parallel start to get the code changes into the code base. So some point in the future, those we won't have to use those. We'll be able to use the official releases.
Yeah, so my question is because I'm currently working on the, a release upgrade for the service-based interface. And if, the source code that Purdue is using as a reference, basically it's going to be using the current release 15. So it would be, it's going to be kind of double work either if I do the service-based interface release upgrade now, and then Purdue wants to integrate their changes, so they need to also take into account all these changes for the release upgrade. Or Purdue needs to kind of bring, if they are going to bring their scalability work into the SD core, bring that now, and then I can actually do the release upgrade on top of that. But yeah, that needs to be taken into account based,
That kind of, that in a way that goes back to AJ, because he's the one that at this point is gating the incorporation of those changes.
Okay, then let me have a call with AJ and see how we're gonna proceed with that, because otherwise it's gonna be that kind of double work on this.
I mean, it was perfectly reasonable to me that he wanted to just not take them in mass, that wanted to, vet them.
Mm-hmm.
So, Gabriel, when you talk today, can you also bring me in? So,
Oh, sure.
yeah. So we can see, yeah. I mean, as if you're just working on SPI, it shouldn't be correlated with my changes or the changes that we have done at Purdue. But still, yeah, let's go
Yeah,
over.
if it is not an issue from your side, I can just continue doing what I'm doing.
Yeah,
So
let's have a discussion, I guess. It would be better.
okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, that actually is a segue. I see AJ had to drop, but on SD core, it sounds like you guys are already making progress on the upgrades.
Yeah, so there are a few things. One again, I'm working on the SBI for release upgrade. So Ajay shared with me before I went on vacation documentation on that. So that's what I basically start testing since last week. Running some experiments, what would be the best way to kind of try to automate most of those changes, because there's lots of files that need to be touched. But also at the same time, the other part of the roadmap is to make the SMF start using Go PFCP instead of using the OMEC PFCP. That is something that a Canonical team basically created a patch, and as of this morning now, the patch is properly working, so I'm just finalizing to review. So from there, we will be moving the N4 interface to release 16, and then the idea is to move into release 18, that one. No, SMF, no AMF.
Oh, not the AMF.
No AMF, SMF.
Yeah. So what's the name of it? It's the N4?
N4, that's the interface, the PFCP interface, basically.
Yeah.
So we're as part of the roadmap, we decided to use Go PFCP because we are already using that package in the UPF, but the SMF was using the OMEC PFCP. So instead of kind of having two different PFCP repositories for the same purpose, so we're just going to rely on a single repository, which is the Go PFCP.
Okay. Keeping in mind that I'm always acronym dyslexic.
PFCP, the other way around, PFCP.
All right. Anything anyone has to say about SRAM? Don't see anyone on.
Actually, Larry, if I could, this is actually related to the OAI integration, but it's SDRAM. But so if I understand, what this whole thing about needing to use a different E2 agent than OAI, that's about ASN1 incompatibilities. Is that right?
That's just one of the reasons. In past, we faced like whenever we bringing a new E2 agent and try to integrate with ONF rig, along with the ASN encoding decoding incompatibilities because each RAN vendor has adapted to a different flavor of ASN encoding decoding, and along with that, the ORAN specs that they are complying to are also sometimes different. So for getting the E2 agent work, the very first specification is the E2 AP. And if that is not complying, then again, it would lead to a lot of handshaking kind of issues. So since the days we were working with OAI 4G stack, we had got one of the E2 agents to work, and wherein we pushed a lot of changes while I was at ONF to get this E2 agent in kind of a static library which can integrate. The idea was that this particular E2 agent, an open source E2 agent, can integrate with any RAN stack, which would speed up the integration of ONF-RIC.
So I guess what I don't, thank you for that. So but I guess what I don't get is, I mean, these are supposed to be standards. You know, ASN it's been a standard for decades. You know, where the incompatibility is coming from. I mean, the whole reason for these things is to promote interoperability of multi-vendor solutions, and yet it seems like in fundamental incompatibility.
Yeah, so there have been flavors from Nokia, and then there's something from OSS tool. I don't remember all the details right now, but while we tried to integrate the ONF-RIC with Radisys stack or with other commercial vendor stacks, we ran into such issues because they were not using exactly the same ASN encoder decoder library. So there are different flavors available in the market open source, and then some of the companies have added their own customizations. So we it was hard convincing a lot of folks that the endorsed, the blessed ASN library was the one from Nokia, if I'm not wrong, but we had some troubles around that.
Yeah, got it. So, I guess I'm bringing this back up because as I, heard the discussion or at the end here, we started talking about need to publish our own OAI images. It just seems like we're, headed towards a fork, or it doesn't seem like the right direction. I mean, if there's energy that's going into this, it would really be better to try to get to the root cause, if at
Yeah, the
all.
root cause, Timon, the root cause is it not being in any vendor's best interest to standardize on this. So that's going to be kind of a hard root cause to fix. The incentives are not aligned on this one, he said very cynically.
All right, yeah, that's an interesting observation. I would think somebody like Radisys might have the right incentives, but
Maybe.
okay, I understand, and I've you've answered my questions, and I've expressed my concern. So let's not forget about this. It'd be nice if we could ultimately get this resolved.
Agreed. I mean,
Yeah, it's one way or the other. If we
Timon, the problem fundamentally, all cynicism aside, is that this is an interface that allows for flavors and customizations, and it's not going to be plug and play. It's going to be really hard to make this plug and play. You're always going to be.
But every time I hear this, I hear it as like the ASN1 is incompatible. And I mean, ASN1 is like from the 80s. I mean, it's decades old. It's used in a pile of protocols, So if it's really an ASN1 encoding thing, I mean, there's something.
I don't think it's entirely that. One, it's not entirely that. Two, where are you getting your ASN1? I'm not sure if it's a compiler or translator, whatever it is. Who has the most up-to-date version of that and that is 100% compatible?
Still, I mean, a protocol. I mean, the encoder, I don't get it. I mean, it really is from the 80s, right? Now, the service models I could get there being some discrepancies or whatnot too, but if it really is an encoder problem, it just seems so fun to me.
it's the way the specification ASN.1 is interpreted. So ORAN releases ASN.1 and the way it's being interpreted by these encoder decoders, sometimes there is a discrepancy. So someone encodes 3 dots in a ASN data structure very differently from others, and in my experience, I've seen most of the issues comes when there is a nested list kind of structures. Regular ones goes well. Okay, doesn't matter what flavor you use, but sometimes people have their own interpretations, and we had tough time dealing with them. And in very recently, I had similar situation while dealing with the Juniper RIC while we were trying to integrate something in Intel. So yeah,
Yeah, I wanted
that's all I
to
can say.
add to that. I mean, we looked at it in very deep detail, and you know, there are parts of the ASN1 standard itself are a little bit ambiguous on some of the encoding, and it's a very difficult encoding because it's not type length value, it's length and value, and the type is only guessed, and so there's a kind of a canonical. There was a canonical implementation of the decoder in the C language, but Nokia have done their own forks of it, and there are several different forks out of it. So you have, you know, which one do you choose? And the industry doesn't seem to have chosen a single one. You know, and especially when Nokia go off and do their own. And like you say, you know, something from the 80s like that, I think people have forgotten the original reasons the thing wasn't specified first. And even if you do update the standard now, Nokia aren't going to change, and they're not motivated to do so. And like Kushal said, Juniper have so much invested in their stack that it's difficult to find one to suit every situation. It's in corner cases, yeah. It's in very, you know, but somebody will always come up with an ASN standard. And when we were talking about this with AT&T on the ORN discussion groups and working groups, you know, we really pushed hard to try and change it to gRPC, and there was no way they would change from ASN1. They would find every excuse under the sun not to change. It really is a mess.
Thank you, Sean. Thank everybody. Thanks. I appreciate the background on it.
All right. Thanks. This is. I'm glad everyone's got this in their cached in their heads, because this is the next big thing that we're gonna try to push on. So rock status, I don't know. We're gonna do some documentation so that we can recreate new, you know, someone knows how to create new APIs for Aether. Sean got a start on that. I don't know,
Yeah,
Sean, anything to say about it?
Yeah, I didn't get back around to it this week, Larry. I had to take a couple of days off. So it's on my radar, and I'll try to add to it as soon as I can.
From my own personal point of view, it's kind of a one-stop shopping issue that if I am adept at jumping from README to README throughout the code base, I could probably figure it out, but it was kind of hard to see it end to end.
Yeah, that's no problem. And your email was helpful. That was useful to set the context. So yeah, I'll probably ping you about it again for more clarifications.
Good, thanks. And then the other thing was related to the GitHub agent replacing as to how we publish. I'm guessing no one has picked that one up.
No, it dropped off my radar. I think, Gabrielle, was that something that
what
there's a gap there?
What the?
So this was in relation to the GitHub actions related to Rock. Is there still some outstanding jobs there that are?
No, no, there is nothing pending from our side, but I'm not quite sure what the publishing Docker images or publishing what.
Or whatever needs to be published, whatever artifacts. So that's.
Okay, so yeah, so the
modules.
work that we did in our team, we basically, from the GitHub Action perspective, in the ONOS project organization, which is basically the RIC and the ROC, we fully concentrate just on kind of replacing what Jenkins was doing from the jobs perspective. So what Jenkins was doing is primarily just running a test. So basically a make test target. And that make test target typically just had, FOSA license check or reuse FOSA and run some unit tests and things like that. So that's what we can basically replace and also enhance with a few more things. But publication of images, we didn't do anything on that side. That is something that in the case of like the RIG project, Woo-Jun and the students that are working with him, they actually took what we did on the OMEC project and basically kind of reuse that part or enhanced what we already did. But for the ROC itself, we haven't done anything from the publication perspective itself.
Yeah, that's cleared up the issue for me. So yeah, I mean, I think I don't think there's anything else that will do that publishing. So I think there is a gap.
Yeah, there's a gap, Sean. I wasn't expecting you to fill it. We just need to.
Yeah, identify it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not an issue till we need to publish something new. First of all, so it's not, nothing's blocked on this right now. And once DAF gets the other Jenkins jobs square with it that he's working on the integration tests, maybe we can task him with this one, but TBD.
Yeah, but just kind of keep in mind that this is a kind of like two-step process. One is basically the creation of the actions for publishing the images. Again, that could be used the OMEC project as a template for the basis. But the second part is, as part of the work that we did before, we enabled Dependabot. There is going to be new PRs that are going to be opened by the Dependabot from the dependencies perspective or security patches perspective. And those need to be tested before they are actually merged. And after they are merged, then they can be published, right? So to publish new images, you first need to make updates or improvements into the source code itself. And that's basically one of the parts that what we did needs to be also. There are several PRs that highly likely there are going to be several PRs that are open that need to be reviewed, tested, and merged.
Yeah, I'll just make it. That's a good point. Okay. Is there anything else? We've covered everything that was on the agenda, but all right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your time. We'll do this again next week.
Thank you.
Bye.